where you really felt like you found your role in this team? Because it felt like the first 2 years you were trying to figure out exactly your place in the W.
Everybody does a little bit, and I think it's having that support system.
Lexie Hull's decision to divulge some odd information about Caitlin Clark in the Indiana Fever locker room is the reason the WNBA is currently in a panic. Caitlin Clark has always been the unflappable queen, as everyone is aware. She is the type that would remain composed and appear as if it were all part of the plan, even if she were shoved, tripped, or even blindfolded during a game.
You really felt like you found your role in this team because it felt like the first 2 years you were trying to figure out exactly your place in the W.
Things are so up in the air that it's hard to know exactly where.
She's not here to keep quiet. She makes a lot of noise. She doesn't give up. She is also tired of seeing her teammates and best friend targeted by absurdity. She is therefore revealing everything, including every bullying incident, every humiliating event, and all the bizarre actions that have managed to remain hidden up until this point.
Yeah, I mean, I've read some of my DMs that are hidden, and I refuse to read a lot of them because I know people are upset, and so you kind of forget that there's these people behind the scenes until they come out of the woodwork and say I've been following along this whole time.
And as everyone is aware, the Indiana Fever season got off to a dreadful start. For any club, that is nightmare territory. 1 victory, 8 heartbreaking losses. However, it appeared to be a full-blown crisis for the Fever, full of expectations. The tension in the locker room was palpable as everyone questioned how a team with so much potential could disintegrate so rapidly. The same question consumed both players and fans. Could they possibly get out of this mess? Lexie Hull, who is now a key player in the team's recovery, didn't hold back while talking about the times when the locker room was chaotic. The players were physically and mentally worn out, always tense, and on the edge of losing it. There was an underlying feeling that they were better than what their record showed, though, despite all the stress. This was a gut sensation buried beneath layers of frustration rather than mindless optimism.
This season, all of our shots, threes going up, fans are out of their seats and expecting it to go in. So that just feels so good to feel the confidence.
It was evident that the team was experiencing emotional upheaval when Hull disclosed what was happening behind closed doors. Players started to doubt whether they belonged in the league, whether their strategies were absurd, and whether their roles even made sense after every loss was a stomach punch. They were barely hanging on, and some players questioned whether it was worthwhile to keep going because of the intense anxiety. Here's the startling bit, though. Even though it would have been simpler to let their frustration tear them apart, the Fever never turned on one another.
Following in the spotlight is great, and it's a huge deal for the WNBA and women's sports, but at the end of the day, our job is to perform. We've seen just such a growth year after year, so it's been so fun. The fans in Indiana have been amazing, so just excited to...
They made the tough choice to trust one another and refused to place blame. The sports world was essentially cut off when Caitlin Clark declared for the WNBA draft. When the Fever claimed the first choice, fans who had already seen Clark dominate on college courts went completely insane. Then, social media went from barely mentioning the Fever to full-fledged Fever pitches on Twitter and Instagram posts that were brimming with jubilation and fan art. Those embarrassing preseason ticket sales were over by the time Clark actually made it into the Fever's facility. Thousands of fans flocked to the Gamebridge Fieldhouse on April 10, 2012, and they were going crazy just watching Clark's selection on a screen. There has never been a more sincere joke that was fully intended. A stadium-sized amplifier seems to have been left running continuously. For the team, it meant more than just attention. It was the first night of a blockbuster film's premiere.
That the start of the season isn't the biggest deal, it's how we finish and how we get better, and really proud of just the resiliency of the group. Yeah, I think, she sees the game at a bigger scale, obviously with the platform that she's created for herself, and then that's transitioned to the game.
Let's be clear about one thing though. The real brilliance was the passion Clark brought to the squad, even though she was already a human highlight reel. Lexie Hull was unable to stop discussing the profound shift that took place upon Clark's arrival. Hull noted that it felt like someone had plugged the entire team into a generator when Clark arrived for her first session. Everyone became more energetic all of a sudden. It wasn't simply her skill, either. It was her sense of humor. The kind that, in just a few minutes, made everyone giggle. Just natural, sincere humor, no forced gags. Clark could somehow make a room full of nervous athletes feel like they were at a comedy club instead of getting ready for drills. It didn't take long for the team as a whole to realize how fierce she was. Hull explained how Clark's unquenchable will to succeed spread like wildfire among the team. Players who had been sluggish and discouraged all of a sudden became enraged.
Definitely gonna say, like, you got the next one. Like, I can count on her for keeping me, like, confident and positive.
Instead of being a chore, practice was suddenly a battlefield. Clark also ensured that everyone was ready for battle. She exuded more than simply positive energy. It changed Clark's appearance. She wasn't limited to theatrical productions. They weren't even aware that they had a fever because of her. Then came the times when it became clear that Clark was more than just a basketball player. Christ Sides, Savant's coach, once turned up the music to simulate crowd noise during a tough session. The majority of gamers were just putting up with it because it was so noisy. But Clark said, "Can someone turn it off?" without pausing. "I'm getting a migraine from it." The room fell silent. That was not how anyone spoke to Coach Sides. The collective breath was described by Hull. Everyone was waiting for an explosive reaction of some sort. However, the entire squad started laughing when Clark repeated herself. The anxiety vanished in an instant. It was ridiculous. It was not what was anticipated. And it became a legend in the history of the Fever right away.
A lot is, it feels like she really imbues everybody with confidence as well. Like, she just sort of has this way of thinking big about things. Oh, look, you've been on the Fever for 3 years now, but this year, you go from a rebuilding team to now you guys are selling out arenas.
Everyone was wondering if H. Hall was the same player they had almost written off because of how confidently he was playing and how many shots he was draining. Her name was being chanted by fans who had never heard of her before. It was sincere belief rather than merely a tactic. You start playing like you truly can when someone like Clark, a true superstar, believes in you. In addition to Clark's well-known, somewhat terrifying competitive battle fire, teammates were taken aback when Hull lit up the court as though she had always belonged there. Hull used to make jokes about how Clark couldn't even tolerate losing scrimmage drills, which were essentially gladiator-style battles instead of just warm-ups. Clark's unwavering enthusiasm started to pay off on game days, and every practice seemed like a high-stakes match. Her fixation on winning soon affected everyone in her vicinity. The team as a whole was forced to step up as players were diving for loose balls as if their lives depended on it and scratching for rebounds as if they were in the championship game.
#1 pick, and once Caitlin declared, that kind of changed things, I think, for the city a little bit. People were just so excited to come support the Fever. We felt that. Yeah, I mean, I think, like, part of my role is just getting to the open spots, and we have such a good offense that people find the open person.
Clark's unique blend of humor and drive made him a game share in the Fever's locker room. Hull frequently mentioned how, with Clark present, every practice felt like a championship game. The drills were fierce and the scrimmages were more furious than before. However, there was an odd sense of happiness in the air. Clark ensured that everyone was enjoying themselves while making every moment matter. This dual energy was essential for boosting team spirit and making the effort seem worthwhile. Clark's influence fundamentally altered the team's culture. However, it was most apparent during Hull's incredible climb. Hull's comeback wasn't solely due to her diligence. It demonstrated what may occur when a player's self-assurance is unrestricted. Thanks to Clark's faith, Hull developed into the player everyone believed she could be. He is a monument to the power of support and a reminder of the transformational possibilities of genuine faith.
Competitive aspect of it too. I think it's something you've talked about in the past too, that she's just kind of raised the competitiveness level.
Guard on the other team, hitting open shots, being where I need to be, spreading the floor. Like, those are things that I can bring to any team. So those are the things that I focus.
Because of his unique blend of comedy and determination, Clark changed the game in the Fever's locker room. Hull frequently described how having Clark around made every practice feel like a championship game. The scrimmages were hotter than ever, and the drills were rigorous. However, there was an odd sense of happiness in the air. Clark ensured that everyone was enjoying themselves while making every moment matter. It was important to have that dual vitality. fostering a sense of unity and making the work seem worthwhile. Clark's influence fundamentally altered the team's culture. However, it was most apparent during Hull's incredible climb. Hull's comeback wasn't solely due to her diligence. It demonstrated what may occur when a player's self-assurance is unrestricted. Thanks to Clark's faith, Hull developed into the player everyone believed she could be. He is a monument to the power of support and a reminder of the transformational possibilities of genuine faith.